Mercedes has had a bit of a rough start to the 2023 campaign, but now it seems like they're ready to return to where they need to be, on top of the world. Although this seemed very much impossible after how the W14 turned out to perform as a car, Wolff came out with an announcement that made every Mercedes fan happy. It seems like we're going to see some closer fights between the 2021 rivals Hamilton and Verstappen as the season goes by. And I do have a promise for you. The next 8 minutes will reveal so much about where Mercedes is headed in the remainder of the season. When it became obvious that the no-pod sidepod design needed to be changed, many suspected Hamilton of not wanting to continue to work with a team that didn't listen to him when they were supposed to. However, it turned out the opposite, and while he's yet to sign an extension beyond 2023, Hamilton's willpower to turn things around with the Silver Arrows is here, and he has announced it loud and clear. But on the other hand, with the limitations that the budget cap poses and the new development path that Mercedes needs to take, it's not going to be an easy mission. Sure, they do have some extra time to spend in the wind tunnel facilities, but if they do not find the right design for the W14 and the correct development path, that would mean nothing to their aspirations to challenge Red Bull further down the road. This is something that Wolff, out of all the other team principals, knows and has felt personally, so his recent update about where Mercedes is headed is definitely giving us some positive vibes about the team's competitiveness sooner rather than later. The Austrian offered hope for 2023, saying that finally the team has defined a clear direction for the remainder of the calendar. But before I go into that, let me tell you what clear direction means for Mercedes. In 2022, the Silver Arrows failed to build a car that would extract the maximum performance out of the new regulations, because it was a very rear-ended one. The W13's main issue were porpoising and bottoming out, and in trying to fix this for 2023, the team built a car that was too strong on the front end, meaning that it was lacking rear downforce. This resulted in increased drag and lowered stability, something that Hamilton has pointed out many times throughout the first 3 races of the season. Basically, Mercedes built 2 very different and polar opposite cars in a span of 2 seasons, and now they've reportedly found a cure for their issue, working towards the middle of what they already have. While it has been difficult to see them struggle and lose to their customer team Aston Martin, the progress that's been made afterwards and the promising pace that the team has shown in Melbourne is nothing to joke around with, as Wolff went on to add. 3 races into the season, I think we saw that one team is setting the benchmark now. In Australia, though, we saw glimpses of performance in our car that encourages us for the next part of the season. In terms of car development, it is encouraging to see that within 3 races we understand the car much better. We have defined a clear direction for where we need to go, and I believe we're on the right trajectory. We need to consolidate our understanding, and hopefully over the next few races we can make another step. Now, why are statements like this pouring hope into Mercedes fans' hearts and souls? Well, it's quite simple. Do you remember what the initial statement was that was made by Wolff and everyone in Mercedes after the first race? The W14 won't be competitive. It will be yet another data-collecting season, and we will try to extract as much as we can. Now, the team is focused on winning races, which, to be fair, would be probably the biggest comeback by any team on the grid right now, given how the RB19 demolishes everything in its way. So, how does Mercedes plan to do this in the first place? Apart from the obvious change in the sidepod design and the entire car, something that we'll mention again later, the team will likely follow a path that was followed by Red Bull last year, after their bad start to the campaign in the first 3 races. Although Mercedes will bring the massive package to Imola, they won't wait until then to build the car towards where it needs to be, as Wolff vowed to bring small but significant upgrades to the tracks that come before Imola, which are Baku and Miami. After Imola, the upgrades won't stop, and tracks that we do need to pay a lot of attention to are Montreal, Silverstone and Barcelona, with these venues being labeled as the ones to which not just Mercedes, basically every other team, will bring new upgrades. Keep in mind that after Imola, Mercedes can utilize the extra wind tunnel time that they have for their newly designed W14, and this is exactly where we expect that the season will get interesting, at least in terms of Mercedes challenging Red Bull for the top spot on the grid. On the other hand, the pace of the W14 is definitely not the only thing that is worrying Wolff, and what we are seeing on the track is just the tip of the iceberg of what is going on behind the curtains. The Austrian said that while the machine is continuing to run in Brixworth and Brackley, the towns in which the Mercedes' facilities are located, the speed of the W14 will be a crucial factor when it comes to how the car will present these hard-working hours during the Easter break. He then continued to elaborate. We will consistently be bringing upgrades to the car over the next few races, which is something to look forward to. But there's no such thing as a magic bullet that transforms the car, and it's about being realistic with your expectations. Hopefully, we will see a steady improvement. It's also important to keep on track and not oscillate too much between exuberance and depression, to stay rational and believe in our trajectory. Believe in the capability of the team. There will be setbacks, but there will also be upgrades and plenty of work that will help us get closer to the front. Obviously, the next big thing is Azerbaijan. And when you have a sprint race weekend ahead of you, one thing is guaranteed: anything can happen. At least with the current format, in which the drivers hate to risk their tires and the chances of crashing are increasing a lot, the sprint is definitely something that can massively contribute or take away from a team. With this in mind, Mercedes does have a lot of ground to cover if they want to challenge Red Bull. But one thing is for sure, they won't be the only team that has this in mind. Although Ferrari has slacked a bit after the troublesome start of the 2023 season, they do tend to bring upgrades to the earlier mentioned circuits, with the Maranello team labeling Barcelona as the next track that we should keep a closer eye on. And do not forget the customer company of Mercedes, Aston Martin, which, while buying around 50% of the car parts from the Brackley-based squad, has managed to stay in second place in the Constructors' Championship, 10 points clear of Mercedes. The competition is tough, and with Alonso saying that the AMR 23, the name of the 2023 Challenger, will go through a lot of changes throughout the season and 75% of it won't look the same in the final form, this is definitely a challenge to be overcome by Mercedes. Hamilton and Russell are definitely ready for more improvements in the W14, and what Wolff said about the future improvement of the car could mean one thing: Mercedes is eyeing 2023 for big results. The Brackley-based squad is sick and tired of waiting and seeing what will and what won't work in the data collecting process. And after building two polar opposites of a car in 2 seasons, the direction is clear. Build something in the middle of these two extremes and challenge Red Bull ahead. Not to take anything from Ferrari, but I do not see the potential of the SF23 to ever win constant races throughout the 2023 season, mostly because Sainz said that the design needs to change and the path the team follows needs to be different, and that has been denied by Vasseur. You also have Leclerc, who won only 6 points after 3 races with 2 DNFs, saying that the only goal for him this year is to finish the race. With that being said, the only competition Mercedes will have in 2023 is Aston Martin and, of course, the established team at the front, Red Bull. What do you think about the newly generated plans for the W14? Do you think that with a new design and with everything that's going on in the factories, Red Bull can be dethroned in the middle of the season? Let us know in the comments below.